Hello and welcome to the third installment of my grading of all of the base game cards. If you want insight about the grading system, check out the description or click on the link in the top right hand corner to get to the first video of the series where I explain it all. But let's get started. Aquifer Pumping is a card which is only really useful in a few specific situations. For example, when you have crazy amounts of steel and nothing to do with it. Let's say you're mining guild in the mid game and you have 6 steel prod without any card draw. Well, then you might as well play Aquifer Pumping and use some of that steel each gen to increase your TR and get some ocean placement bonuses. The other situation which immediately comes to mind is playing UNMI. UNMI really needs a terraforming step each gen to thrive, and Aquifer Pumping gives you just that. Of course, some steel prod will be extremely helpful in this situation as well, because UNMI is pretty poor. Aquifer Pumping also combos really well with some plant prod, protected habs or Arctic Algae, as these cards allow you to then go for a very fast ground game. But all in all, Aquifer Pumping is not a very strong card. Often you have no problem passing it, as the situations in which it shines are quite rare. And even in the situations in which it is strong, it is not game breaking. So for me, Aquifer Pumping is D tier, but certainly quite a high D tier. Archaebacteria, same as adapted lichen, suffers from the problem that early game plant producers are very inefficient, and the fact that one plant prod is really underwhelming if you cannot combine it with more plant prod or placement bonuses. It has some upsides over adapted lichen. Of course, it is cheaper, so in the early game I definitely prefer Archaebacteria if I am really looking for plant prod, but the tag on it is arguably worse since it has less combo potential, and you cannot play it in the mid to late game to benefit from cards such as Decomposers, Ecological Zone or Viral Enhancers. For me, the up and downsides somewhat cancel each other out, and I will place this card in the same tier as Adapted Lichen, the D tier. Arctic Algae is the only exception to the rule that early game plant cards suck. This card is seriously strong and can single-handedly get you to Gardener. It is especially great if you yourself are able to place some oceans. A card like Ice Asteroid then suddenly gets you a greenery as well. I think Arctic Algae deserves to be placed in A tier, as it is sometimes game-breakingly strong, but there are also situations, namely when most oceans are already placed, where it is just not worth it or even not playable anymore. Artificial Lake can be very strong in some situations. It is a late game steel dump that gives good points and you can grab some good rebates or block opponents' cities with it. The only problem is that quite often Lake is not playable anymore when -6 degrees Celsius is reached or you don't have any steel and therefore other point cards on your hand are stronger. But most of the time you still want to avoid passing this, so for me Artificial Lake is B tier. You almost never want to play Artificial Photosynthesis for its plant prod, as in that way it is even worse than Adapted Lichen, which is already probably the worst plant producing card in the game. If you take the power, it is only slightly less efficient than Geothermal Power, which is certainly a good card. So if you are in need of one power prod, Artificial Photosynthesis is alright. If it enables you to play something like Strip Mine, then it is excellent. Also, there are cases where you desperately need a science tag, and then Artificial Photosynthesis is also quite useful. All in all, this card is alright, but not amazing. A clear candidate for a C tier. I hope you enjoyed my video on the base game cards, and if you did, please leave a like and consider subscribing. Also, let me know in the comments what your gradings would have been, and follow me on Twitch if you want to catch me live streaming Terraforming Mars. Have a good one.